Listener discretion is advised.
We're going to talk about some unique methods of execution throughout history.
Oh, God. Okay.
And just a blanket trigger warning, some of these are quite violent. So if you're squeamish or you don't like hearing about this kind of shit, please fast forward probably through the rest of this episode.
But also, what are you doing listening to this podcast?
Right.
Yeah, well, some of these are... Okay. So you can be executed by animals, such as being crushed by an elephant, devoured by lions, alligators, crocodiles, piranhas, and sharks. You can get thrown into a snake pit, a pit of snakes.
Yep. Got it. That was easy to follow, but thank you for the clarification.
Well,
I didn't have a lot of questions about that one.
It's
But
a
you answered
euphemism. It's a euphemism today, but it was like a fucking pit of snakes. You can be tied into a sack with various animals and then thrown into the water.
Good God.
And this is called the Pina Colada.
Oh.
You can be torn apart and or quartered by horses, and you could also be trampled by said horses.
Yeah.
Never
And
trust a horse person.
Just for folks who like don't know what being drawn and quartered is, like, because you hear it a lot, but I feel like people don't take the time to like really think about what it means. Like literally you're tied each limb to a different horse.
Uh-huh.
And then they make them run.
And they rip you apart.
Yep.
So since we're kind of on this topic, I'm scrolling down a little bit because I also have a little tidbit about being hung, strung, and quartered. So this is kind of similar. This was traditionally given to anyone found guilty of high treason during the Middle Ages. The culprit would be hanged and seconds before death released, so they're still alive, and then disemboweled with their organs being thrown into the fire. Again, they're alive during this part. Once they finally died, then they would be cut into 4 pieces and traditionally have their body parts sent to 4 different parts of the given city as like a public warning to others.
And then like strung up. So there's just like a piece of a body hanging for a while.
Yeah. Like a scarecrow. Like a quarter of a scarecrow.
But a dead body.
But it's
Okay.
Anyway, so in terms of the quartering, then that could have also played a factor. It's just like kind of tradition to send your pieces off to different areas to.
So those are things about the 4 horses, the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Great.
Yeah.
There's something about it.
Well, horses are really strong too. I feel like, your limbs are tied to 4 different horses and then they all get spanked at the same time. They like run. Whoa.
Yeah, I can visualize it, but thank you for the the additional help.
Yeah. Okay, you could also be buried alive, and this is
I be?
This was the traditional punishment for Vestal virgins who broke their vows.
What? What does that mean? Like they were supposed to be nuns, but they banged?
In ancient Rome, this was a virgin consecrated to Vesta and vowed to chastity, sharing the charge of maintaining the sacred fire burning on the goddess's altar. So it's somebody who's assigned to be a virgin. They're just assigned by the church to be a virgin.
Daughters of the state.
I guess not the church. This is ancient Rome.
Having sexual relations with anyone was tantamount to treason. In this way, the Vestal Virgin was not buried alive, but simply sent to a room with few provisions where she would die a natural death. Oh, that's great.
So much better.
Okay. But Vesta is the goddess of the hearth. So it says the college of the Vestals was regarded as fundamental to the continuance and security of Rome.
Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah, fetishizing female virginity is always really fun and safe.
Yeah, I love it. This is great.
Yeah. Anyway, so
we're nailing this.
Or just slowly,
starve to death in a room.
Starving to death. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is one of my favorites. Another form of execution is blowing from a gun. So that means being tied to the mouth of a cannon before it's fired. So the cannon just kind of goes through, this one will be familiar to Game of Thrones fans.
I can't get over Amanda's faces.
I'm going to get stuck like this.
Well, it's not. I've got a ways to go.
Good. Great.
You'll recognize this one. The punishment of molten metal was a punishment for greed. It was poured either down one's neck or over one's head to resemble a crown. Game of Thrones.
I did that to Daenerys' brother.
Oh, yeah. I gotta rewatch that shit. It's so good.
Oh, God.
Okay, here's a doozy. The Blood Eagle. So there are photos on the drive of this because it's kind of hard to follow along. So this is when they cut the skin of the victim down the spine, breaking the ribs so that they resemble blood-stained wings, and then pulling the lungs out through the wounds in the victim's back. So kind of like that scene in
Red Dragon?
Silence of the Lambs.
Or Silence of the Lambs, yeah.
It's kind of like that. So if you go to the drive, if you want to, this will be on the blog, if you want to. The first two photos. So the skin of the back is kind of peeled like forward to like look like wings.
Yep.
Got it?
It's getting to me.
Amanda, you got it?
Next.
Got it.
Next. Next we have the Brazen Bowl, which is being locked inside an iron bull statue and then being cooked to death when a fire is lit underneath.
What is fucking wrong with humans? What is wrong with us?
We're sick.
Yeah, we're sick.
What is fucking wrong with our species?
Like, I know, let's make a bull statue. Let's spend
use
the resources
art to
on that.
kill.
And then, cook someone to death inside of it.
Like, we
you're
always
sending a
see,
message.
like, cave paintings and stuff, and it's like, wow, this is when civilization began, or whatever. But this is a case of art literally being used to torture and kill.
Yeah.
Like, it's entwined.
Like, we
it's
didn't have
one in the
Netflix
same.
then, so I get it that people had a lot more time to just
Continue watching.
They have a lot of time on their hands.
do something awful, but my God. It's
And again,
not
the
great.
sending of a message, which I would argue kind of plays along with today's death penalty in the United States.
It's exactly what it is. And it's not even a message to, like, potential criminals. It's like a message to voters from politicians. Like, that's all it is.
That's fucking gross. Okay, this was my favorite on my list. Keel hauling.
Oh,
So
is
this-
this what I think it is?
Yes. This applies mostly to sailors. So they would be tied to a line that was looped beneath the sailing vessel, thrown overboard on one side of the ship, and then dragged under the ship's keel, so like the bottom of the ship, either from one side to the other or from the length of the ship from the bow to the stern. So the common supposition is that keel hauling amounted to a sentence of either death by extreme torture, or minimally a physical trauma likely to permanently maim. The hull of the ship was usually covered in barnacles and other marine growth, and thus keel hauling would typically result in serious lacerations, of which the victim could later suffer infection and scarring, if they survived.
Yeah, or they would just drown.
If the victim was dragged slowly, his weight might lower him sufficiently to miss the barnacles, but this method would frequently result in his drowning. There was also a risk of head trauma from colliding against the hull or the keel, especially if the ship was in motion. Additionally, if sailing through shark-infested waters, there was a risk of the victim suffering a fatal shark attack. So,
Keel
keel hauling.
How
Then we've
does
got-
anyone even fucking come up with that?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's horrific.
Like, if you want someone to die, like if they committed a crime on the boat and you want them to die, just
Toss them
toss
over.
them.
Or shoot them or something. Then toss them.
God.
Yeah. Okay, we got disemboweling, dismemberment, drowning, falling, and flaying. On to scaphism. This one is super extra. This is an ancient
Good.
Persian method of execution in which the condemned was placed in between two boats, force-fed a mixture of honey and milk, and left floating in a stagnant pond. The victim would then suffer from severe diarrhea, which would attract insects that would burrow, nest, and feed on the victim, and the victim would eventually die of septic shock. Like, how do you fucking even figure that out?
Trial and error of the brutalist kind.
Isn't that so extra? Like,
That's
why?
disgusting.
They would leave them tied between these boats for like days, weeks, whatever.
Uh-huh.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah. Who knew that honey and milk would give you horrible diarrhea?
Well, they're probably just lactose intolerant. Like 90% of the world. Why is any milk fucking not lactate?
Ugh.
Yeah, like shelf stable.
Yeah.
I think that milk tastes pretty good, actually.
Lactate tastes exactly the fucking same. All milk should be lactate. The end.
Yes, all milk.
Yes,
Yes,
all milk.
And ice cream.
All right, we got slow slicing, aka death by 1,000 cuts.
Great.
Old hat.
Not just good for emo songs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Suffocation by carbon monoxide from burning coals in a sealed room. That was kind of inventive.
I'd choose that one if I get a choice.
Yeah, that's the most humane one that we've heard yet.
I would fucking love that one.
Yeah, I mean, this is not just... Yeah, these are horrible ways to be killed.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, we went through hung, strung, and quartered. What's called crushing. This is was used both as torture and execution. Medieval crushing involved placing the accused's head in a device that slowly crushed the top and the sides of the head together.
Or eventually, the whole body, right?
Just the head, from what I read.
Oh, well,
yeah, that's different.
Okay.
That was kind of... You're talking about like Giles Corey, like
the
rocks.
More weight. Do you know what we're saying, Amanda?
Oh, yes.
I hate it.
Amanda, do you know this reference?
The Salem witch trials, Giles Corey.
Sure.
The old man, and they put him on a rock, and they added more rocks and more weight, and they crushed him, and they tried to get him to confess, and all he would say
to accuse his wife
of witchcraft, and all he would say is more weight.
All right. Well, I like that act of defiance against the state.
This is just the head. So,
okay.
The top. It crushed the top and the bottom and the sides together. Eventually, the eyes would pop out, the skull would crack, and the neck would break. But depending on how slowly you did it.
When I get a massage, I have to tell them not to even touch my temples because I can't stand any pressure on my temples.
Because of crushing?
I don't know. Maybe
she just
because
doesn't
of
like the sensation.
Yeah, you were definitely crushed in a past life.
I really can't handle it.
You're doing it to yourself right now.
I can do it to myself very gently, but I can't handle anyone else touching my temples.
My God. Yeah.
Now I know how to freak you out.
No.
I'll put a gentle mixture of ketchup and grass clippings and press them against your temples.
No.
With my feet. She took her headphones off.
She's out.
She just quit.
She has left the building.
That would be my ultimate torture. Yeah. God.
Okay. We got boiling to death. This involved being flung into a cauldron of boiling water, oil, tar, tallow, or even molten lead, and then slowly or not so slowly scalding to death. Impalement. That means when you are stuck through with a large, sharp object, such as a stake, pole, spear, or hook, and left to die. This corporal punishment was regarded as one of the most shocking public forms of execution during the Middle Ages and was often given to suspected witches, women found guilty of infanticide, and child molesters.
I like how most of the worst punishments were reserved for women.
Mm-hmm.
For women.
For women. Well, because we're supposed to be chaste
Virgins.
and kindly.
Non-witch virgins.
Yep.
Boring.
I do not fall into that category.
Absolutely not.
All right, we've all heard of the
witch.
wheel. The wheel.
God.
Or the Catherine wheel. And that was named after Saint Catherine, who was allegedly put to death on such a wheel.
I don't really get how the wheel works.
Okay, so you are so it's a wheel and you're strapped to it on your back, so your body's arched backwards, and then your hands are tied above you and your feet are tied below you on the wheel, and then they turn the wheel and somehow your limbs are gradually broken as they turn it.
Yeah, the limbs are affixed to something else that remains stationary so that when you turn, it moves
To, like,
I saw this at
stretch
like
on it's like stretching on a rack, but on a wheel.
Yeah, I saw one of these at like a medieval history music like display or some shit. There's definitely like a piece of it that remains stationary that like
there's
part
like
of the body
so
is
much
attached
engineering that went into execution in the Middle Ages, and like all of that engineering talent could have been put towards like sanitation. Like,
yeah, this is why we're so behind.
Yeah.
Okay, they're broken on the wheel. I have a... Yep. Okay, I got an illustration for us.
Great.
Okay. You'll put that on the drive.
I'll put it on the drive. Okay, but just a quick little explanation. Those convicted, blah, 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 to be executed by the wheel would be taken to a public stage scaffold site and tied to the floor. The execution wheel was typically a large wooden spoked wheel, the same as was used on the wooden transport. Blah, okay, like a fucking wheel. The primary goal of the first act was the agonizing mutilation of the body, not the death. Therefore, the most common form would start with breaking the leg bones. To this end, the executioner dropped the execution wheel on the shin bones of the convicted person and then worked his way up to the arms.
So this is crushing with a wheel. This is like kneading dough, but the dough is a person.
I think there must be different ways to do it.
Some scholar is going to write to us.
Because also, another way, well, it says the second act, the body was braided into another wooden spoked wheel, which was possible through the broken limbs or tied to the wheel.
Good God.
So that's how they displayed it. They wove the body into the wheel.
Ugh.
Or braided, excuse me, because that's better.
Nope. Never gonna think about making challah the same way ever again.
Hard next.
Okay, so this description, the victim's limbs were gradually broken while strapped onto a wheel and then left to die. This form of execution could take days for the person to actually die. Okay, then we have sawing, which is just what it sounds like. The victim would be hung upside down and slowly sawn in half.
Typically as part of a magician's act.
Yeah. If sawn all the way down, they would die, but often the victim was only sawn up to the stomach and left to die, which could potentially take several days. So anything
sawn
that
up
you can
to the stomach, like from the crotch.
Yeah, they're hung upside down and they're sawn from the crotch up to the stomach.
That one got Amanda.
Keep up.
Mine was the Blood Eagle, and this one is hers.
Well, Blood Eagle was like the second one, and this is the last one. It's the last one.
Thank fucking God.
Today in the U.S., the most common method of execution of prisoners is lethal injection. But as we have found out, it's quite expensive, so a lot of states have alternatives.
It's expensive, and there can be like shortages in like acquiring the chemicals for
right, and there are like
injection.
3 different chemicals that are needed to do it.
Yeah. So there are a lot of reasons why they couldn't get that specific chemical
Affirmative Murder
cocktail.
just did an episode, and I'm terrible. I can't remember exactly the details, but it was like basically somebody's execution was rushed because they were anticipating this shortage in material required to do the lethal injection, and then I think they were like exonerated after the fact.
Oh, Jesus
I think a lot of or at least a few years ago, like a lot of the chemicals came from some company in the EU, and then the EU like banned the export of those chemicals for use in executions because they have multiple uses, and then like the US couldn't get its much needed supplies of death juice.
My God, yeah.
Death juice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I meant to go into what the lethal injection is, and
I'm sure we will have another episode that's about the death penalty, and you can more deeply dive into like the modern death penalty.
I like the historic death penalties.
Let's go back.
So a handful of states today use electrocution. 3 states allow lethal gas, and
More are coming.
A fucking firing squad can be used in Oklahoma and Utah. And I
honestly, a
think
firing
that
squad, I feel
Louisiana-
like, would be fast at least.
Yeah, but you're not
It's
taking into
the cheapest for the state.
It's
Yeah.
the cheapest, but you're not taking into account like the people that have to do it.
You.
Oh, yeah. No, it's all fucking awful.
Yeah.
All of it.
Mm-hmm.
I bet I could ride my bike around my neighborhood and find 5 people who would be willing to do that.
To shoot you.
To shoot someone.
To shoot you specifically.
To be part of a firing squad. Yeah, I'm sure that there are plenty of people that are like chomping at the bit to kill people, but I don't know. I feel
That
like
would quickly
even them,
descend into like the purge.
right?
But also hanging is apparently still a thing in Delaware, New Hampshire, and Washington.
I bet those are just like old laws that are still in the books that they don't actually use.
I honestly think that prisoners who are sentenced to death can opt for what method they want. Because the lethal injection, there were some like medical reasons why that wouldn't work.
For some
Ditto
people.
for electrocution. So I don't fucking know.
Well, we will get to electrocution in my case. And
My case has electrocution, too. We did not cover the same thing.
oh,
wow.
shocking.
Oh, God. That's so tasteless.
Okay.
Well, I sure hope you liked that clip. If you did like that clip, make sure you are subscribing to our YouTube channel, leaving us a nice review, and joining us on Patreon for even more video content, audio content, salacious content all around. Come join us. Treat yourself.